We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. They always have been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since we've been out there. The government has been Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your weekly daily morning show where we bring you the latest and everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the dead cat bounce that Bitcoin is currently experiencing. As you know, over the last month or so, Bitcoin dropped over $35,000 from around $95,000 down towards $60,000. Right now, I believe that we are in the fourth wave of a Elliott wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bear market that is probably going to bottom out at some point in the $50,000 range at some point over the next 3 to 5 months, somewhere in that territory. So today we're going to be talking about this exact chart right here, the chart where we work on trying to figure out where Bitcoin is going to be finding its bottom. As you know, the first wave of this bear market was absolute brutality. We dropped from $126,000 down to $80,000. Then we had our two-wave corrective movement. We only managed to get up to about $98,000. We did not even touch $100,000, and we rejected off of the 100 daily moving average, and we kind of rejected off of the 50. We rejected more so off of the 50 exponential moving average. We then dropped very aggressively down towards $60,000, and when we got down towards $60,000, we told you on Twitter many times that was probably going to be a local bottom, and we're probably going to have somewhat of a bounce from there. But I am not at all convinced that $60,000 is the end of the bear market. I publicly called back when Bitcoin was up here above, right around 80, starting to fall through 80, that the bear market bottom was probably going to be somewhere around $58,000 down on the 200 weekly moving average. And although Bitcoin got close, we have not actually tagged the 200 weekly moving average just yet. We're actually floating above it. And although this was a very long lower shadow, and although we do have all kinds of gaps up here, for example, on the weekly chart, we have a fair value gap, and on the Bitcoin 1 exclamation point chart, or the CME futures chart, we have this major gap up here. Although we do have all of these gaps, and Bitcoin will basically certainly fill those at some point in time, what we do not necessarily have confidence in right now is that the bear market is over. Instead, I believe that Bitcoin is going to follow a very similar trajectory to what we saw happen in 2022, and you're probably going to see our bear market here bottoming out somewhere above $50,000 sometime before October of this year. So today we're going to be discussing where the bear market bottom is, but more importantly, we are going to be discussing exactly how we should be playing this market, because it's tempting to go all in. It's tempting to dump all of your cash into Bitcoin sub $70,000. And I'm here to tell you that it's not a bad idea to invest right now. I'm going to share with you why right now in this zone, although it might not be the absolute best area to invest, we may get a better entry. This is still a fantastic entry in the long run. However, I do also want you to be fairly and duly warned that you might get a better entry at some point over the next few months as well. I also want to talk to many of you guys that find yourself in very difficult positions. A lot of people bought way too much Bitcoin up near the top. I'm one of them. Honestly, there's a lot of Bitcoin that I bought up above $100,000 that I wish I had have just held in cash. And this is a constant reminder to us as investors of value-based investing, which is the principle of getting great assets, great stocks, great pieces of real estate, great cryptocurrencies at good prices. It's very tempting to buy the all-time high, and it's not wrong to dollar cost average up there, but when you're really starting to put large lump sums of cash into an investment, a better thesis sometimes could be to look at 5 or 10 different sectors that you're interested in: cryptocurrency, real estate, stocks. Maybe in the stock overall sector, you might be looking at different sectors there. So you might be looking at semiconductors, you might be looking at tech, you might be looking at that just household essentials, whatever these different sectors are, and you look for a deal. And I'm here to tell you that on the Crypto Jeb YouTube channel right now, Bitcoin is the deal. Right? Gold is still very overvalued. Silver's come down a great deal, but also silver runs like once every 30 years. So do you really want to lock your money up for that long? But Bitcoin right now, if you were to look at the entire market, if you're looking at real estate, in some areas you're getting some good deals. Like for example, in Florida where we live, we're looking at a small real estate transaction. Prices are very good for buyers right now. The Florida real estate market's in somewhat of a bear market. So I'm looking at buying a piece of property that I've been eyeing for like 10 years. relatively soon. We are also, however, as I zoom out and look at all of the different markets, I'm seeing right now that Bitcoin is honestly one of the best investments out there, and I want to share that thesis with you. So welcome to the stream. If you're new here, my name is Jeb McAfee. I've been working in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market almost every single day for the better part of 10 years. I've been in crypto for 8.5 years. This July will be 9 years. I have watched Bitcoin go through everything after this line. That's when I got into Bitcoin. Oh, well, Jeb, that doesn't seem like that long. This was 2017. Bitcoin's chart only goes back to 2010, which means I have been doing daily technical analysis on the Bitcoin chart for more than half of its existence. In the over 3,300 pieces of content here on the Crypto Jeb catalog, I am one of the most experienced Bitcoin chartists on planet Earth, and I would love to help you navigate these markets because I have been through 2 bear markets completely personally. I've made every mistake under the sun and learned many of the things that I teach the hard way. I have gone before you and done all of the dumb, stupid crap. So if you'll just listen to me, I can help you avoid doing all of the dumb, stupid crap. And I'm happy to report that we are playing this bear market very well. For the first time, I'm sitting on a massive amount of cash, moving into the bear market, enjoying these dips. We bought some down here below 70, looking at buying some more down below 60. And again, I would love to share my wisdom and my knowledge on these markets with you. Lord Black Videos in chat said, okay, let's go. Number 2. Thank you guys for being patient with me. We just moved into a bigger studio. This studio is about 4 times as large as our previous studio. And so as you guys know, one of the principles that we teach is the build in the bear principle, right? You know, we live in a market, the cryptocurrency market, that goes through seasons. You basically have winter, spring, summer, fall. Right now, we're in the dead of winter. You can go out and work the field, if you will, all you want. You're not going to grow anything because it's 20 below outside. So what we're doing right now is we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that our company is as strong and solid as possible. We're expanding our team. As I said, we're moving into a new studio. We're working on all kinds of new systems and processes. We're developing new pieces of content. We're working on new courses. These are all kinds of things that we are doing. And we had a hiccup that we had not experienced before in the internet a second ago. So thank you for being patient with us on that. We have fixed it now. Miguel Rangel is in chat. Doc Williams is in chat. Rocket Race Official is in chat. Bartizan's in chat. Joe Bollier's in chat. Jordan Dutcher is in chat. Crypto Surge is in chat. And CBoss G03. Good to see all of you guys. Welcome to the stream. Really appreciate that you are all here. Guys, we are going to get started, but before I do just first want to let you know about Femex. If you guys have not already, I highly encourage you to sign up for Femex because they are the premier Bitcoin and cryptocurrency trading platform. If we find a short trade that we are interested in taking in this video, Femex is the place to do it. So if you have not already, make sure to go to the link in the description box down below and sign up for Femex, and when you do, you can get up to a $1,200 bonus. All you got to do, deposit $10,000 of your trading funds and do $1 million of futures trading volume, and you will get an instant $1,200 bonus. There's also all kinds of other bonuses. For example, as a welcome bonus, you're going to get a $100 position voucher. That's cash that you can trade with and keep the profits. And you're also going to get a $10 trading bonus right here. So if you have not already, make sure to sign up for Femex with the link in the description box down below. All right. We've also got Ariel Haram said, shout out from Hungary. Shout out to Hungary. Will you go through today's market? Yes, I absolutely will. And that's what we're going to do right now. All right, let's do it. So I want to, generally speaking, when I'm doing technical analysis and I'm picking apart the charts, like a hungry vulture, when I'm picking apart the charts, I generally like to start with the long term and zoom in. But actually today we're going to do it backwards. We're going to start with the short term and then we're going to zoom out because we've actually discussed the long term quite a bit on Bitcoin, and it has basically been the overarching topic of conversation. But I want to actually start down here on the hourly chart, whereas normally I'd start on the weekly chart and zoom in. All right, so the reason I want to start down here is because I want to show you the pattern that we're looking at right now, which is this. Can anybody tell me what you think this chart is doing? In chat, I want to see some engagement. I will read every single one of your theses, no matter how long they are, no matter how many of them there are. I will read every single person's take on what has taken place ever since February the 5th, and then we're going to pick it apart. For context, Bitcoin had a wave 2 dead cat bounce up to $98,000 that then fell down towards support around $85,000. I warned you guys, if you'll recall, on this exact stream that if Bitcoin failed to hold this uptrend, then that would end up being catastrophic for Bitcoin, and we'd probably revisit down below $80,000, if not lower. We discussed this exact possibility and probability on this stream. We also discussed how Bitcoin had an overside, underside test of this uptrending level of support. And we also discussed how Bitcoin rejected off of that uptrending level of support that then turned into resistance twice. And the cascading crash here was something that we will write about in the history books. Bitcoin dropped all the way down to $60,000. Now, why does Bitcoin drop down to $60,000? Why does it drop down to $60,000 here? Let's read some of the. Let's read some chat here in just a second. Why does Bitcoin drop down to $60,000 here? There's a couple of reasons. Number one, you have people that were in long trades at very unfortunate times that did not cover themselves. When you are doing leverage trading, which is something that we do endorse, although I teach you how to do it safely because you can lose a lot of money if you're not careful. When you are doing leverage trading, it is absolutely essential that you rock your stop losses. I posted on X the other day. I said one of my biggest flexes is that I leverage trade and I've never been liquidated. And the reason that I have never been liquidated is because I only take great trades, which means I trade less than a lot of you guys do. I take very, very, very high quality trades, or I don't take them at all. I don't get greedy. But also, number two, because that wouldn't actually prevent you from getting liquidated. Sometimes the market's just going to move against you. I use stop losses and risk to reward ratios because I'm not a degenerate. We talk about being degens in the cryptocurrency space, and it's a funny meme, but I have a wife and 3 children. I have to do this right. I cannot go and blow hundreds of thousands of dollars in a trading account. I have a baby to feed, 3 of them, and my wife, who's also, babe. So I got to take care of them. You know what I'm saying? So if we were in a long trade here, our stop loss would be right here. Our stop loss would be right here. And so when Bitcoin falls below that uptrend, we get out, right? We actually talked about a long trade. We talked about this longing this section of market right here. Could have taken profits. If not, then you get out here or you get out there. So why do we have this cascading crash? Well, the reason we have this cascading crash is because people did not set up their long trades correctly, and they go long somewhere down here expecting us to go back to 100. Fine. But then they get greedy. Okay, we went up to 98. We didn't quite tag 100. We're going to have to tag 100. And so they have unlimited loss potential because they never actually set a stop loss. And then what ends up happening is that the way that they're trading, which is foolishness, peak foolishness, is they say, you know what? I'll just put my liquidation price down around $79,000. And then what we end up seeing happen is that as Bitcoin starts falling down through these levels, those longs get liquidated. That's number one. People in leverage trade positions that did not do it correctly. You can leverage trade safely. You genuinely can. And that's something that we teach on this channel. That's why the course 3.5A Mastery exists. That's why the course CT2A exists. That's why we teach about technical analysis and trading, because you can trade safely. People have been trading since the dawn of mankind. It is something that can be done correctly. However, most people in crypto don't do it right. They lose all their money and they blame the game instead of the player. And so a big part of the reason that we had this massive crash was because of the massive amount of longs getting liquidated. You can see here on February the 4th, we saw $1.84 billion of longs getting liquidated. The next day on the 5th, we saw $654 million worth of longs getting liquidated. Those 2 days were right around here and here. Because to start with, when we started falling over here in late January, around the 25th or so, you could see quite a few longs were getting liquidated back over here as well. On January 30th, you have 2.4 billion. On January 29th, you have 1.24 billion, right? And so that would equate to about right here, in this zone. So you have a bunch of longs that get liquidated in this zone, and then you have a bunch of longs that get liquidated down here. You have these 2 long pockets that got liquidated. So that was the first reason that we crashed here. The second reason was also because of leverage, but it was a slightly different type of leverage. We saw this major crash happen because a lot of people took out loans, for example, on Morpho or different lending platforms up at the top, and they put their liquidation price right below $80,000, and so they got liquidated. That Bitcoin gets taken by the lender, and then many times those lenders are going to dump the Bitcoin on spot because they know that we're going into a bear market. Well, how do the lenders know we're going into a bear market? Well, that's the reason they set up the program in the first place, is because they knew we were going to go into a bear market and they wanted to get your Bitcoin. I hope you understand how improper use of debt is a big part of what causes bear markets. Because at the end of the day, leverage trading is a form of debt. You understand? At the end of the day, leverage trading is a form of debt. And so we have to be very, very careful with that. Mods, can you guys go ahead and remove all the messages from the spammers? We do not deal with spam in the chat. We want to actually be able to see what people are saying. So those are the 2 reasons why Bitcoin crashed. And so the reason that we discuss why this crash happened is because then we need to discuss why this is going to most likely be a dead cat bounce. As we said, we'll go ahead and read all of these ideas. Ali Shariati 7727, that's a cool name, said dead dump in micro time. Yep. Crypto Surge said dead cat bounce. Rohan said fourth wave bounce to around 71 to 72K. Darren Cooper said the Dave Ramsey of crypto. I don't agree with Dave Ramsey on everything. But honestly, when you follow the likes of Dave Ramsey, you end up doing pretty well when the market crashes. You know, it always seems, sidebar, it always seems really boring to follow proper principles when the bull market is in full swing. But then when things hit the fan and you test your principles, those that are left standing are the people that you should listen to. Going into the next bull market, you should not be following everyone who got annihilated because they were not prepared for the bear market. Oh, but maybe you should follow us because we are properly positioned for this bear market. We have told you since we were at $116,000 that Bitcoin was moving down. At $116,000 on October the 13th, ask Grok, Gemini, any of your favorite AIs to verify this if you want. It's here on YouTube. It's public. It's in our catalog of content. We discussed how Bitcoin was probably going to go down to $94,000 to $100,000. I didn't think we'd stay down there for very long, but as soon as we fell below $94,000, I said we were in a bear market, and the bear market target will probably be between $60,000 and $75,000, which is exactly where we've gone so far. At this point in time, the bear market may be a little bit lower because of the speed and veracity of this crash. But true principles seem boring when they're not needed. But when it comes time and they are needed, you understand their value. And their value is very important. Okay, so all of this should give us context on this fourth wave bounce. What happens here? That's the question everyone has. Nobody really cares about the third wave crash. But the reason that we're talking about that is because that is the context that precedes what we're doing right now. Is Bitcoin going to be able to recover from here? I'm not convinced. And the reason that I'm not convinced is because of this. How quickly Bitcoin recovered. This is only how Bitcoin bottoms during black swan events. One of the reasons that you subscribe to this channel is because I have seen it all on Bitcoin, and I can just be like, this looks like something that happened 7 years ago. 5 years ago, Bitcoin formed a very similar pattern. We rallied up to $10,500. We crashed aggressively. We V-bottomed, and we did go into a bull market. And I see a lot of noob technical analysts saying, "Oh, Bitcoin's doing the same thing that it did in 2019 or in 2020. Bitcoin is just doing the exact same thing. It's V-bottoming, and then now the bear market's over. We're going to go into super cycle." There's absolutely no justification for that whatsoever. I told you also on X a while ago that there was no reason for Bitcoin to hold $75,000, none whatsoever. $75,000 to $73,000 is a very key zone. And it is a zone that's right above our head and is very important because it was the first bull market top that was a new all-time high set in our current cycle. Why is this not necessarily what we saw in 2020? Well, what we saw in 2020 was a recovery based on an enormous amount of quantitative easing. You were also at a very different point in the cycle. You were a couple of months away from the halving. At this point in time, we are about 2 years away from the halving. So we're at a very different point in the halving cycle. And overall, you just have to be very careful about how you compare the market. You cannot compare apples to oranges. This market back here in 2020, when Bitcoin dropped down to $3,800, this was not in the middle of the bear market. It was in the beginning of the bull market. So you cannot compare today's date to what was happening at the beginning of a bull market because we're not in the beginning of a bull market. We're in the beginning of a bear market. Like it or not, Bitcoin is governed by its halving cycles. It is governed by the 4-year cycle. We wonder every single season whether or not that's going to break, and every season so far, it has not. So is Bitcoin going to be able to get some momentum here? Probably. We have, as you can see, put an underside-overside test in on this downtrend. But as you'll notice, we set this bottom, and then we set a lower bottom. What gives with that? If Bitcoin's actually going to put a strong recovery in here, why was this top, this second top, not higher than the first one? If we're doing our underside, overside test of this downtrend that governed this overall crash, why then are we setting lower highs? This is not bullish in my opinion. If Bitcoin manages to rally up here to $75,000, it would need to do so very quickly, and it would need to punch through $75,000 because honestly, Bitcoin kind of dancing around here and hitting $75,000 sometime later this week is not the kind of strength that the bulls need to see. The bulls need to see much stronger strength. And so what I'm concerned about in my overall thesis right now for this chart is this. A lot of people who are new here think that that's the bottom. And a lot of people who are new here have gone into leverage trades again. long leverage trades. I don't know if you've noticed, but in the duration of this bear market thus far, we have recommended one long trade, and it was right here, and it did go to profit. That's the only long trade. We said Bitcoin is most likely going to tag 100,000. And I believe, if I recall in this trade, you would have had to get out a little bit early. You would have had to use that trailing stop loss, as we've talked about, right? To actually lock in some R factors. Like it or hate it, the truth is you have to be very careful with longing in bear markets. You have to be very careful with trying to time the bottom. We have taken out investments in Bitcoin that we plan on holding for, until about 2040, but we are not in the business of longing Bitcoin in this market. If you want to make money in the Bitcoin market right now, you have to look for short trades, because that's what we're doing. We're in a bear market. And if you find a short trade that you like, or if we find one, I highly recommend Femex. And there are short trades that are probably going to come up. And so my concern here is that everybody's saying, oh my gosh, the bear market bottoms in, Bitcoin's going to go higher. But all I see is just another overside, underside test of this level, $72,800. What's the big deal about that level? Well, it's a very important level. If you look into the past, that is the all-time high of this market. Essentially, what Bitcoin is saying right now is that Bitcoin is in the middle of transitioning out of this market and transitioning into this market. That's what the short-term analysis is saying. That's what it's saying right now. Until you get a concrete close above $72,800. This level right here, where we bottomed here, capitulated below, rejected off of, didn't even get to. But yeah, we didn't even get to $72,800. That's a very important thing to understand. We didn't even get to $72,800. On Sunday, we only managed to rally to $72,000. Why is that important? Why is that $800 difference important? Well, it's the same thing that happened before this massive crash over here. We had a dead cat bounce, and we didn't even get to 100,000. We only got to 98. And guess what Bitcoin was doing back then? An overside, almost underside test. You see the similarities. Now, this is a proper comparison, because we are comparing counter waves to the primary trend in the exact same bear market. This is a proper rules-based comparison. We are comparing this bounce to this bounce. Now, the only difference is this bounce is much shorter, so there's still more time that Bitcoin could try and come up here. But still, I need to see Bitcoin confidently break above $80,000. Let's say we get above $72,800. Oh, Jeb, your theory was wrong. Bitcoin managed to get above $72,800. We had a bounce here, and then we did this number. Okay, I'd like to see Bitcoin above 80. And by the way, the rest of the world would like to see Bitcoin above 80 before we start getting too confident in anything. Bitcoin probably will take some time here to build out the fourth wave. We're looking at the very beginning of wave 4 out here on the weekly chart. It's probably not something that's going to resolve itself in a day. It's probably, and honestly, hopefully, something that's going to resolve itself in a matter of weeks. If Bitcoin doesn't actually manage to print out a wave 4 out here on the weekly chart where you can see it, then honestly, that means wave 4 hasn't happened yet. And I'd really like wave 4 to not have to take place. I mean, actually, selfishly, I would, because I want Bitcoin to go really low. Bitcoin might end up having to build a wave 4 down here on the 200. Let's say that we do just crash even harder here. That means wave 3 isn't over. Just because we had this long wick does not mean wave 3 is over. We saw a long wick in the middle of wave 3 in the last cycle, right here. A lot of people thought this was the end of wave 3, that the chart was going to look like this. We had our wave 3, we had our wave 4, and then we're going to come back down here to like 23,000. That's not what happened. Wave 3 looked like it was over, and it wasn't. And so there's a very real possibility that if Bitcoin does just tank right now, that wave 4 hasn't actually even begun. So love all the theories that this is wave 4. It could be, but we actually don't have confirmation that it's wave 4 yet, because you have to see the wave 4 printing on the time frame that we're doing the actual charting on, which is out on the weekly chart. And so if Bitcoin does not manage to actually show us some kind of sideways or slightly bullish movement here, staying below $80,000, then wave 4 has not taken place yet. Once again, our current invalidation is $80,000. If Bitcoin starts closing weekly candles above $80,000, that's where you can start to say the bear market is over. However, I am extremely confident that the bear market is not over, and that it's not soon to be over. And by soon, I mean in the next few weeks, which means I am extremely confident that Bitcoin will not be closing candles above $80,000 anytime soon. because Bitcoin is most likely going to go lower from there. So that's what's going on in the short-term time frame. We're going to zoom out and look at the longer-term time frame because, as I said, I want you to understand where the bottom is, how to prepare for it, and I want to make sure that you're able to build wealth and save and build financial sovereignty for your family in this cycle, which is part of the reason why I wanted to remind you guys of some of our different products. So first and foremost, one is financial coaching with myself. If you guys don't know, I am also a financial coach. I love going over finances, investments, all kinds of different information with you guys. So if you've not already, make sure to check out our financial coaching with the link in the description box down below. I would love to sit down for an hour with you and go over your finances, go over your investments. I would love to help you walk through the financial sovereignty way, follow the laws of money. I would love to help you be in the kind of position that our family is in right now, where we are not only surviving, but we are actually thriving in the Bitcoin bear market. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not going to tell you do this, do this, do this, do this, but I will tell you what I am doing. I will give you wise counsel. I will give you good principles that are going to help to guide you. And honestly, a lot of times it's just helpful to have someone to talk to. So if you haven't already, make sure to sign up for financial coaching with me with the link in the description box down below. I also want to give a big shout out to the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. Over 5,000 students have gone through CT2A learning about how to do technical analysis on the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets over the last 7 years of its operation. There are over 50 videos in CT2A, about 12 to 13 hours of content in here teaching you exactly how to do the kind of technical analysis that we are doing every single day here on our channel. And for a limited time only, you can get access to CT2A for 20% off using coupon code JEB20. Last but not least, I highly encourage you to check out the Financial Sovereignty Academy as well. This is the Financial Sovereignty Academy, where we are going to teach you everything that you need to know about how to build wealth and build financial sovereignty for you and your family. I personally believe that when it comes to money, there is a war that is going on at all times between financial sovereignty and financial bondage. Financial bondage looks like this. You have to answer to a boss that you don't like. You have to stress out and not be able to sleep at night, not be present with your kids, not be present with your wife, not be present with your husband, not be present with whoever it is, because you are constantly and at all times worried about money. I have spent so much of my life in survival mode, just focused on whether or not, are we going to be okay? Are we going to be okay? Are we going to be okay? You can feel it in your chest. I don't want to live like that, and neither do you. And I can teach you how to not live like that, because I don't live like that anymore. I worked my way out of it, and I'm going to teach you how in the Financial Sovereignty Academy. If any of you have ever been in that position, on the brink of homelessness, in the position where you got nothing, you're fully focused on survival, I am going to teach you how to get out of that. And by the way, these principles of financial sovereignty that we teach in the FinSov Academy have paid me dividends in the bear market. Having an emergency fund, no debt, having a balanced budget, knowing what our spending is, high income, low expenses, proper principles. These are the reasons that we have the peace that we do right now. And so if you have not already, I highly encourage you to check out financial coaching with yours truly, the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy that over 5,000 students have gone through, and FinSov Academy, which is going to teach you how to have sovereignty over your wealth so that you rule your finances and not the other way around. All right, let's keep it going here, guys. I want to talk about the short-term time frames here. Sorry, not the short-term time frames, the slightly longer-term time frames here, because we want to discuss where we are going in this bear market. So I had someone walk up to me in church the other day and they said, Jeb, Bitcoin's dropping a lot. Where do you think the bottom is? And he at least had the wisdom to be like, I think it's going to go back up. And so, I told him a story. Every time that Bitcoin goes into a bear market, I have people come up to me and offer my condolences. They offer their condolences as if I have just lost a loved one. And although I do love Bitcoin, it's not quite like that. I had people come up to me and offer their condolences to me here because at this point in time in 2018, I had just decided not to go into astrophysics. After deciding not to go into astrophysics, I decided not to go into aerospace engineering, not because I couldn't do it, but because I didn't see any, I just didn't. Frankly, I didn't want to. I wanted to go into crypto. And so I got into Bitcoin. And when I got into Bitcoin, it almost immediately went into a bear market because, as you know, I got into Bitcoin right about here, right? Got into Bitcoin in July of 2017. Almost immediately goes into this massive bear market. But the funny thing is that in the entirety of the 2018 bear market, Bitcoin just dropped right back down to where I found it, which was at $3,000. The bottom of the bear market was the same level that I found it. I watched Bitcoin go from $3,000 to $20,000 in like 3 months, and then we spent 14 months grinding back down to $3,000. What that told me is that Bitcoin was a good asset in the long run, and so people offered their condolences. I said, nah, fam, I'm good, and I was selling courses back here. I was buying Bitcoin. I was accumulating Bitcoin. I still have some of that Bitcoin, Same thing happened in this cycle over here. I had people come up to me and offer their condolences. Oh, Jeb, I'm so sorry for you. The industry that you have built your wealth in is collapsing. I'm so sorry for you. It's okay. I'm good. I'm fine. This is my third bear market. And there are some things that are true, whether your emotions tell you they are or not. And those things are, number one, Bitcoin is a good investment. You can pretend it's not all you want. You go right ahead and do that. I mean, you have fun with that, right? You have fun with that, saying that Bitcoin's not a good investment. The charts tell us otherwise. The charts tell us that Bitcoin, just like every other, good investment in history, reverts back to its 200 weekly moving average. If all you ever did was buy Bitcoin below the 100 weekly moving average, here, and here. If all you ever did was buy Bitcoin below the 100 weekly moving average, which, by the way, the 100 weekly moving average right now is sitting at $86,000. We are $18,000 removed from the 100 weekly moving average. If all you ever did was buy Bitcoin in these zones, you can see that it would have been an excellent time to invest. Bitcoin is cyclical. And at the bottom of the cycle, which is part of the reason I don't think we're at the bottom of the cycle, everybody loses hope. There was a post I made on X a few days ago. It got over 1 million impressions. It was, let me see if I can find it here. Basically, everybody needs to believe that the cycle is dead. Once everybody believes that the cycle is dead, that's when the cycle bottom will actually be in. Let's see if I can find this, because I don't think I could even say it better than I did on over here. But essentially, what you're going to end up seeing happen is you're going to see absolutely everybody capitulate. Everyone. We're not going to, because I'm just insane. But what you're going to see happen is everybody is going to give up on Bitcoin. They're going to say it's dead. And that's going to be your sign that the bottom's getting close. And that has not happened yet. I can't find the post. Here we go. I did find it. This post got 891,000 impressions, and for a good reason. Prediction. Bitcoin will break below $70,000. Bitcoin will fall. By the way, this was on February the 1st, just because so far this take has come true. Like, let's just point this out here. I posted this on February the 1st, which was over here. At this point in time, Bitcoin was hovering above $75,000. Our prediction was this: Bitcoin break through 75,000, head down to 60. So we said prediction: Bitcoin will break $75,000. Bitcoin will fall towards $60,000. Everyone will think Bitcoin is dead. Really smart investors will buy the dip. All four of these have already taken place. We're getting the Bitcoin's dead crowd starting to rear up again. However, that's going to take place some more. We're going to see more of that. So Bitcoin will fall towards $60,000. Everyone will think Bitcoin is dead. Really smart investors will buy the dip. Really smart investors like you bought the dip below $70,000. But then Bitcoin's going to dip one last time. And this was below 60,000. This is me predicting that another dip is going to come that hasn't happened yet. Bitcoin dips one last time, and even the smart investors wonder if they've gone insane, because we just set a bottom at $60,000. Everybody thinks $60,000 was the bottom of the bear market. Let's party! Bitcoin dropped 55%. Woo! Not quite. Hold your horses. There's no reason to believe the bottom's in yet. The trend is your friend until it ends. 6, the smart investors also sell. 7, Bitcoin actually bottoms. So, according to this prediction, after Bitcoin drops below $60,000, whatever happens after $60,000, somewhere in that range, is probably going to be the actual bottom. Then the psychopaths buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin rallies to $250,000 next cycle, and the psychopaths get rich. Now, I'm not a psychopath, but what I am is ridiculously stubborn. I've been told this my entire life, and I just never will accept it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm ridiculously stubborn on the things that I believe. You know, my character arc is I try something that is wrong or faulty or sinful or incorrect or foolish. And I try it and I try it and I try it and I try it and I try it, absolutely sure that I'm right. I'm totally convinced that what I'm doing is the right way to do it and everybody else is wrong. And then I fail and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail because I'm really stubborn. And then it takes me a while. But then I'm finally like, wow, that really wasn't working. And I try it the other way. I'm like, whoa, that works. And because I've failed so many times, I become so absolutely convinced of what I am saying is true. And that's where I am with Bitcoin. I have discovered over the years that Bitcoin is true whether you like it or not. Your emotions don't matter. The technicals do. Your emotions, Financial Times emotions, New York Times emotions, Grandma Times emotions, none of them matter. What matters is that Bitcoin is absolute scarcity. Value always, as a law, flows to the asset with the most scarcity. Prove it, Jeb. Okay. You find me the absolute hardest working, most diligent, most intelligent, highest IQ, most sociable, friendliest artificial intelligence engineer on planet Earth. He's the most scarce because he's the best. You go right ahead and tell me that that guy will not be worth $100 million in a few years because of the industry that he finds himself in. Value follows scarcity. If you want to build wealth, you build scarcity. Why do you think that I come on this chart, on this camera, and tell you that I've been here for 8 years, I've watched over half of Bitcoin's history, we have 250,000 subscribers, we have 40 million views, I know almost everybody in the industry, we have 3,500 videos on our catalog? Why am I doing that? Because I want you to understand that what you are finding on this channel is scarce. There's not a lot of analysts out there that can say what I can say about my pedigree in Bitcoin, and I want you to watch the content. I'm telling you, this channel brings something to you that is scarce. This channel right now is bringing to you a host that instead of getting obliterated in this bear market is actually succeeding and enjoying himself in this bear market, and I'm sleeping like a freaking baby. Value is going to flow to someone who is scarce. So newsflash, this is a business. I do this for a living. This is my job. No, I'm not sorry about making money doing this. You shouldn't be sorry about going and working wherever you work and making money. Value follows scarcity. So if you have a skill set that makes you scarce, value is going to follow that. If you're an asset like Bitcoin that makes you scarce, value is going to follow that. It all goes back to that 21 million hard cap. Bitcoin is the first and only unhackable digital network with mass social adoption with an over 15-year track record of absolute perfect execution, never failing once, completely impregnable when it comes to security, that carries absolute scarcity. There is nothing like it on planet Earth. And so it is not a question in my mind of if Bitcoin will go back to all-time high. It is simply a question of when. There are two scenarios. Either Bitcoin recovers, goes back to all-time high, and significantly beyond because of its overwhelmingly incredible fundamentals, or the internet breaks, the world ends, Jesus comes back, something black swan takes place that we cannot predict, and Bitcoin goes to zero. I highly doubt Bitcoin would go to zero in its current form. Even quantum computing, let's say quantum computing hacked Satoshi's wallet, Bitcoin wouldn't go to zero. I don't see that happening. It wouldn't. I would not see that happening. Well, yeah, what, quantum wouldn't send it to zero? No, because like 75% of Bitcoin that is still in circulation can be quantum proofed without even needing to upgrade the network. Okay, so let's say quantum just hacks a bunch of wallets, pre-quantum resistance wallets. So 4 million Bitcoin go into circulation, they get sold off. Hopefully a government around the world would, step in and actually do their job, which would be, that'd be funny if a government actually did their job at some point, but it would be theft, right? It would be theft, so it would be something that would be under the purview of governments to step in and try and resolve. Now, they probably wouldn't get anywhere because you'd be talking about people that are that can just disappear and they have all this Bitcoins and they got all this money, right? But eventually you would see the Bitcoin trickle back into circulation. Everybody's post-quantum, and Bitcoin would get hit, and it'd probably go through an 80% bear market if quantum got hacked Bitcoin, and then it'd recover. And it would. It wouldn't kill Bitcoin. Bitcoin would survive a quantum attack if a quantum attack ever actually ended up taking place, and I don't think it will. But if it ever does take place, Bitcoin will be fine. Bitcoin's going to be okay. Nothing's going to kill this train. And so if it's a matter of when, not a matter of if Bitcoin goes back to all-time high, then we're not dealing with, oh my gosh, am I going to lose all my money in Bitcoin? Not if you don't panic sell, you're not. Not if you don't over leverage, you're not. What we end up saying is we don't know exactly how long this trade is going to take place, but I think in the next cycle, Bitcoin's going to go to $225,000 to $250,000. If Bitcoin has a risk factor of dropping down here to let's say $48,000 is the absolute lowest it could go. At current prices, at $68,000, if it goes to $240,000, you're looking at an 8.7 risk-to-reward ratio. Now, the only thing I can't tell you about this with as much confidence is I don't know whether this sugarcane baby, I don't know if it's going to take 6 months to grow. I don't know if it's going to take 3 years to grow, but I can tell you it's going to grow. Bitcoin will be at $250,000 very soon, most likely by the end of the decade. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, are you going to be prepared for it? By the way, we're about as close to the end of the decade as we are to the start of the decade. At the start of this decade, when we entered the 2020s, Bitcoin was trading at $8,000. It was at $8,000. Bitcoin is on an obscene discount right now. Same thing with the Treasury companies. What Pew Pew Poom is saying in chat is absolutely true. Some of these Treasury companies, like Metaplanet, or MicroStrategy, if all they do is survive, if all they do is don't blow up, they're going to 10x in the next cycle. Like, if strategy doesn't just implode on itself, which I don't think it's going to. I've met Saylor. I've picked his brain. I've talked to him off camera. If MicroStrategy just straight up doesn't explode, it's probably going to go on a 900% run next cycle. It's probably going to go to 1,000. Jeff, that's a crazy price target. You really think it's going to happen? Yeah, it really could. Yeah, it genuinely could. It very easily could go all the way to that level. And I actually think it will. I actually think what you'll see happen is MicroStrategy will probably rally up to this level right over here. It'll probably go up to this uptrend right here. It's probably going to do something like this. If it survives, you'll probably see MSTR trading at $1,000 a share. And part of the reason for that is because MSTR they don't actually dilute MicroStrategy common stock anymore. They do it through the prefs, right? So this is probably going to go absolutely ballistic. And they really can't either because there's been discussion about them not new shares that might be issued from MicroStrategy not being included in the stock indexes. And so, once again, strategy is kind of in that boat of either it goes to zero or it 10x's. And so, honestly, when you're looking at a 10x return, it going to zero that's a fine risk to take. You know, you could lose everything you put in here, theoretically, or a 10x. And so, how do we play this? Well, we have to remember the principles of financial sovereignty. We want to make sure we have emergency funds, low debt, high expenses, low income, a budget. We want to make sure that we have that we are giving money first to God. The best investment I ever make every single month is the 10% that I give to our local church. Well, Jeff, that's not an investment. I see it as an investment. I see it as an investment because what I'm doing is I'm saying, God, this is your money, not mine. Do with it what you will. And I have found in my experience that God is a better financial manager than me because he made money. And so when I put him in charge of our finances, he does a pretty good job with it. Strike that. That's defamatory. He does a perfect job with it. And so if ever I've made a financial mistake, it has always, every single time, tracked back to me making the decision rather than putting it in God's hands. And the 7 laws of money that we teach, it's not your money, it's God's. Have a written plan for your money. Avoid debt. Choose financial sovereignty. Save and invest for the future. Be radically generous. All of these laws are true, whether you like it or not. I don't care if you like it. It's true. Get over yourself. You don't know more than the God of heaven and earth. Get over yourself. Who died and made you God? You don't know what you're talking about compared to God. Have low debt. Have cash. Diversify. Solomon talked about diversification. Have your investments in 7 or 8 ventures. Not in 100, not in 1, 7 or 8. That's what he said. So be diversified. I hold stocks. I have investments in the S&P 500 in QQQ. I have investments in the semiconductor space. Obviously, we have our house, which I don't consider a primary residence to be an investment, but of course, it will probably go up some, right? We didn't buy it for investment. We buy it to live in it. But you understand that we have to follow these correct principles. And the correct principle right now is that we need to actually see what's going on in the chart. We need to prepare for what is most likely to happen. And Bitcoin, with how cyclical it is, gives us that information. Bitcoin is probably going to drop down here towards the 200 weekly moving average. We could spend 8 months below the 200 weekly moving average. That's what happened last time. We spent 8 months below the 200 weekly MA. While we were down there, we created a big old inverse head and shoulders pattern and Bitcoin moonshot. And you set your family up great if you were buying Bitcoin down at these levels. And so, in a similar light, last time we saw Bitcoin fall through the 100, crash straight down to the 200, and then kind of chill out down here right below the 200. It could very easily happen again. And so if we see Bitcoin do that, then Bitcoin could come down here and chill in the high 40s to the 50s for a while, spring back up above the 200, and then go absolutely ballistic in 2027. I've told people time and time again, what you're going to see happen in this cycle is you're going to see Bitcoin go down to the 200. It's going to sit there for a while. It's not going to recover immediately. It's going to sit there for a hot minute, and then we're going to go through a massive bull market in 2027. Your job, your mission, should you choose to accept it, your mission is to survive. Your mission is to survive 2026. And if you can survive 2026 and plant some seeds in the ground, you're going to wake up in a year or two. And I genuinely believe with like an 80 to a 90% confidence that you're going to be very glad you did, which is why I'm doing that. Listen, if you listen to what I say and you go down, just know I'm going down with you because I tell you what I'm doing and I tell you if I've made a mistake. And I believe that Bitcoin is going to be seeing a massive bull market in 27 and 28. It always has. The fundamentals that are underlying Bitcoin have never changed. Now we have the narrative of, oh, Epstein funded Bitcoin development. Who freaking cares? Epstein's a jerk, and I'm glad he's not on Earth anymore, right? But the bottom line is Bitcoin's core is Bitcoin's core. It worked. It's open source. All of the code is open source. Was the funding terrible if Epstein funded? Of course, I would rather not have Epstein's funds anywhere near Bitcoin. Screw him. But Bitcoin is what Bitcoin is. We've had every single piece of FUD thrown at Bitcoin time and time and time and time and time again, and it has never stopped anything. In 2018, it was one thing, and I'm not even going to say what it was because that was obscene, but it was one thing. In 2020, it was something else. It's always something. There's always some reason that you should not invest in the greatest asset that has been invented in the entirety of the 21st century. And not one of those arguments has ever panned out. So if you want to build wealth, my encouragement to you is to get a job or learn to trade, get an income of some kind, and in this circle right here, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. Stay diversified. I'm not saying have nothing in stocks. I'm not saying be all in on Bitcoin. I'm not recommending that. But buy. Bitcoin is in fantastic territory to buy down here around the 200 moving average, especially if you end up seeing Bitcoin come down here and touch the 200 moving average at 58,000, which is where our prediction was. We said that Bitcoin, its bear market, will be around 58,000, close to 58,000. So that's like basically give or take $5,000 on either side. The bear market bottom is probably going to be around, 50 to maybe where we just hit at 60, somewhere in that range. If you see those zones, that's where the bottom most likely is, and that constitutes a fantastic place to invest. Now, as far as this dead cat bounce, until I start to see the 100 moving above the 200 and the 300 here, at this point, I'm not convinced. And I would want you guys to be very careful about investing in, longing Bitcoin in a leverage trade right now, because you are setting yourself up to be a liquidity for people that are taking profits that bought it $300 years ago and just don't care. So that would be my counsel to you guys. All right. Want to give a big shout out also to the last sponsor of today's video, which would be none other than iTrust Capital. If you guys have not already signed up for iTrust Capital, my goodness, this is the time you need to do it. The year just started over, which means that all of your retirement accounts are fresh. Why should you sign up for iTrust Capital? I'm going to make this real simple. You can buy Bitcoin for 24% below spot price. What? Yeah. Seriously. Let me show you how. Okay, so with iTrust Capital, you can get access to retirement accounts. So, for example, Roth IRAs, but we're going to specifically talk about the traditional IRA today. You can get a traditional IRA from iTrust Capital. Why would that matter? Well, in 2026, these are your tax brackets. On any income that is generated between, let's say you're single, between $0 and $12,000, you have to pay 10% tax. Between $12,000 and $48,000, you have to pay 12% tax. Not too much yet. Between $48,000 and $103,000, you have to pay 22% taxes. Between $103,000 and $197,000, which is where a lot of you guys are, you're making low six figures, you're paying 24% on taxes. The cool thing about a traditional IRA is that you can deduct, track with me, you can deduct all of your investments this year in a traditional IRA from your taxes, which means that if your taxable income is up here in this 24% bracket, then deducting, let's say, $3,000 from your taxable income saves you 24% of the $3,000 in taxes. So basically, let's say you went at iTrust Capital, you open up a traditional IRA, you invested $3,000 into Bitcoin, and you invested in Bitcoin at a phenomenal price at $68,000. Well, what you end up having to do is you end up having to say, okay, I bought Bitcoin at $68,000, but because of the tax savings, I actually bought Bitcoin for 24% below that if you just say, I'm just going to keep the taxes. So you can buy right now at $69,000. And because you save 24% in taxes, it actually works out to being the same thing as if you bought at $51,000. Why? Well, because the 24% that you save on taxes, you can just turn around and also invest into Bitcoin. And that's money that's not free, but it's money that you would have otherwise had to give to the IRS, but it stays in your pocket because you invested in Bitcoin through iTrust Capital. So the one way that I'm always telling you guys, and the reason that I'm saying you should sign up for iTrust Capital, is that when you buy Bitcoin in iTrust Capital, based on your tax bracket, now it depends on your tax bracket. If you're making $626,000 a year, then you're saving 37%, right? If some of you guys that are making $1 million, now traditional IRA phases out eventually, so that's why we use 24%. But if you're in this tax bracket, you can save 24% on the principal that you invest in Bitcoin. So if you haven't already, I highly encourage you to sign up for iTrust Capital with the link in the description box down below. When you sign up and fund your account, you're going to get a $100 special funding bonus. So I highly, highly, highly encourage you to sign up for iTrust Capital and start investing today through a traditional IRA. Bertolis Gucci said that's illegal. Really, it's illegal to follow the IRA. the individual retirement account and take your tax deduction. Is that so? Really? Because that's a system that our government set up to help you legally avoid taxes. The reason that the tax code is 1 million pages long is not because it needs to be that complicated. It's because of all the exceptions and all the loopholes and all of the different ways that you can get out of the taxes. All right, somebody's asking me to look at the Metaplanet chart. We are out of time, so I don't have a lot of time to do it. But what I will say, I will make it very brief because we got to wrap it out. What I will say is that Pew Pew Poom is right. If Metaplanet so much as survives, because they've started, a Bitcoin Treasury, if Metaplanet so much as survives, it's probably going to absolutely explode in the next cycle. If Metaplanet just doesn't blow up, yeah, you're probably going to like 30 extra money here. So that's all I'll say on that. But yes, oops, sorry, I meant to show the chart. If Metaplanet so much as doesn't blow up, it's down 85% from all-time high. If it just so much as doesn't explode, and by explode, I mean like implode, right? If it just so much as doesn't die, then it's probably going to perform very well. All right, guys, once again, reminder, big shout out to Financial Coaching with me. Check that out with the link in the description box down below. Check out the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy over in the FinSov Academy with the link in the description box down below. And also check out the Financial Sovereignty Academy where you can learn to build wealth. We're running a promo right now on FinSov Academy that looks a little bit like this. As you can see here, if you use JEB20, the coupon code over on FinSov Academy, you are going to be getting 20% off at checkout. And same thing is available right now over on CT2A. JEB20 is going to give you 20% off at checkout over on the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. So make sure to sign up for those courses. Book a session with me. I'd love to go over your finances with you. Financial coaching is one of my favorite things I get to do. I get to talk to you guys, and I've done many sessions. We have a full money back refund guarantee. If you don't like it, I'll just give you your money back. I don't care. We'll just enjoy our conversation. You'll just get your money back. Please don't take advantage of that. I mean, my time is very valuable, but I've never had anybody take me up on that. And every single time that I can recall at the end of a financial coaching session, someone has told me that this has been worth every single penny. I get that almost every single time. I need to start putting some testimonials here because people love our coaching. They love what we talk about and they love what we go over. So if you are interested, make sure to check out iTrust Capital, FEMEX, and all of our FinSov Academy products with the link in the description box down below. And before I go, I do love you so much. And I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.